Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing the reading wrap up for the months of July and August, our two main summer months in my opinion. So we did a lot of reading in the months of July and August. I was able to read 18 books and I've got everything written down here in my trusty reading journal. We're gonna go through each book and I'm gonna let you guys know what I rated each one and what my thoughts were. First of all, before we get into this, I do want to mention that my voice is still a little scratchy. I am hoping this will go away soon. I'm not sick as far as I can tell. I don't have like any other symptoms. It's just my voice is really froggy and raspy. So I've got me a little water if things start bothering me a little bit too much. But now let's go ahead and jump into what I read in July and August. Okay, so the first book that I read in July was actually a really fun story and it was just a really fun book. I read Archer's Voice and we read this as like a buddy read. Me and my friends all took turns passing around the same copy and putting our own annotations into the same copy of Archer's Voice, all for my friend Melody's birthday. It is one of her favorite books and she has been begging us to read it for as long as we've known her. And we did all finally get around to doing that and we all put our own little annotations and notes and everything in it. And we all really enjoyed that book. I actually gave it 5 stars. I was crying at certain parts. I was mad at the characters. I was heartbroken for the characters. That book, I don't know what I expected. I went into the book completely blind other than the little bits that Melody had told me when she was really trying to get me to read the book. But wow, that book was amazing. If you're unfamiliar with it, our main character actually just moved into a little small town, kind of trying to get away and have a change of scenery for herself. And she ends up kind of becoming friends with the town pariah, and he doesn't speak. It becomes a romance between the two of them, but you're learning about his history, you're learning about her history and their trauma, and it's a beautiful story. It's also extremely emotional. So if you are going to read that, I definitely say pack your tissues because yeah, I was torn up during certain parts of that book. Then I decided to start my reread of Assistant to the Villain. So Assistant to the Villain is by Hannah Mayer, and this book is so much fun. It is a fairy tale fantasy, and it takes place, in my opinion, in a world that almost feels like the world from Shrek. And I know that that sounds a little bit crazy, but listen, it's a fairy tale world where all these characters from all these different stories live together, but they're all a little bit different, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Evie, our main character and Apprentice to the Villain, she is this really bubbly, sweet character who needs a job like really badly because she takes care of her father and her sister, and she ends up getting hired by the town villain, or like their kingdom's villain. And he is basically the arch nemesis of the king of this kingdom. And she needs the money, she needs the job, so she takes it. It's so much fun. I love this story, and even just where it goes into in the second one, which I also reread in July. That one is called Apprentice to the Villain. Watching the character growth and the little bits of romance form, you're just eating it up because it is such a slow burn. It is the slowest of slow burns. And this book, while it is considered a adult fantasy, I don't think it is super adult. Like there is occasionally maybe a little bit of language thrown in, or maybe some little hints or nods at like innuendos, but nothing that is super over the top in my opinion. Again, the little crumbs of romance that we get are delectable. I absolutely love this book, and the third book came out in August. So when I get to my August books, I'll make sure to talk about that one. Assistant to the Villain, the first book, I gave 5 stars, and then Apprentice to the Villain, the second book, I gave 4.5 stars. Then also in July, I read Till Summer Do Us Part. I've read a handful of Megan Quinn books and been surprised by a couple, and then by some others I've just not been that impressed. She is one of my friend's favorite authors, but I just keep getting mixed feelings when reading her books. In the very beginning, I thought this book was going to be everything that I wanted. We have a fake marriage happening where our main character lied to her boss and told her that she was married and having marriage problems, but did not know that her boss's husband is actually a marriage counselor. And she ends up having to go on a marriage retreat with this fake husband who is her best friend's brother. I was really into it in the beginning, and then things kind of started to get really outlandish and crazy. And then the talk just started to get super sexual, and it was to the point where almost everything you were reading was either hinting at being sexual, or when it finally got to the spicy parts, it was just every few pages was a new spicy scene, and that is not my cup of tea. Most of the time in a book, if there are like 1 or 2 scenes, I'm 100% comfortable with that, but when the storyline just takes a back seat and disappears because of all the spice that's happening, I'm just become no longer interested in the story. And that was how I was feeling about Till Summer Do Us Part, so I ended up giving it 2.75 stars. It might be a little harsh, but that's really how I was feeling in the moment, and I still think that holds true, because I don't feel like it's even a 3-star. But then I read another wonderful Abby Jimenez book. I read Part of Your World. Here it is. I absolutely love Abby's books. They are always such a hit for me. In this one, we have our main character, Alexis, and she is a doctor, and she's also kind of the quote-unquote heiress / prodigy name. I don't even know if I'm really making sense here. She is a very big, important doctor at this hospital that she works at, but she also feels all this pressure and duty because of that, and because of who her family is and how she's been raised. So she tries to get away, and she meets Daniel, who owns a bed and breakfast. He lives in a really small town, and he's also the mayor. This book was so much fun. Alexis is basically having to try to choose between her world and his, which is the title. And I gave this book 5 stars. Again, I love Abby Jimenez's books, and I'm almost through all of her backlist. I think I only have 1 more at this point to read, and I will have read all of them. And so far, I have enjoyed every single one. Then for book club, I read Watermoon. This is the book club book that we chose for the month of July. And I was not really sure what this book was going to be about, but when I was reading, it felt almost like I was watching an anime in a way, or I could see this being done in like an anime style TV show or movie, but it's fantasy, and it is so interesting. It's so different than anything else I've ever read, and if you read it, I feel like you would understand what I mean when I say it has that certain sense that I think anime would really be able to portray. And I'm somebody who doesn't really watch anime. My husband does and my friends do, but from what I know of it and the way that this story was written, I feel like it could be a wonderful anime show or movie. So basically you have this magical, I believe it's a pawn shop, and people can come in and pawn off their decisions. So if there's a decision that they regret in their life, they can come in, pawn that decision off, and then go about their life as if that decision never happened. But then something happens, and we end up on this little bit of a mystery mission where we are trying to locate our main character's father, while also learning a lot about this world and this dimension that they live in. I found it super interesting. I did give it 3 stars. I found it a little hard to follow at certain times, and I did also feel like at certain points it was dragging out a little bit. I listened to it on audiobook, so I didn't see how big the physical book was while I was reading it, but from what I've seen of my friends who do have the physical copy, it does look a little thick. So maybe I would have felt a little different if I was absorbing it slower while reading, but through audio, I think that it really helped with the world building. I just also felt a little lost sometimes. Then I finally got around to reading the last book in the Addicted Calloway Sisters series. Some Kind of Perfect was perfect. We get so much of these characters. I don't know if I'm the only one that ever thinks up a scenario, or if I am in a scenario, maybe I imagine like, what would these characters do if they were dealing with this. Or maybe you think like, what would these characters be like as parents? Or what would these characters do if faced with this situation? This book was that. It was giving us all these different scenarios that the characters from the Addicted Calloway's Sisters series were facing over like I think a 10-year period, and just seeing how they would handle those situations. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I don't think that should be surprising at this point. I am glad I took my time with the series and kind of spaced it out because I love it so much, but at the same time I'm just so sad that it's over. I know that they do have the Like Us series, which I'm trying to decide if that's something that I want to read. And then they also, I think, have the Cobalt Empire, which is coming out soon. So we will see if I want to get into more of those like 2nd generation, 3rd generation books and see how I would feel about them. Then I read First Time Caller. This book was on my summer TBR, and it was such a fun time. I'm pretty sure someone told me that this was kind of a remake / took inspiration from Sleepless in Seattle, which is not something I've ever seen, but First Time Caller was so good. I loved this book. We have our male main character is the host of like a love radio show where they talk about love and relationships, and he gets a call one night from a little girl who was calling because she is worried about her mom and how her mom has not had any relationships. And then the mom basically kind of gets brought into this radio show to try to find love. And of course, there's going to be some tension between her and our male main character, who is the talk show host. I also gave this one 5 stars. Then I read a really, really great thriller mystery book. This is called The Ghost Writer by Julie Clark. This was recommended to me by my friend Brittany, and I've said it before, but let's say it again. Appreciation for these beautiful sprayed edges. It's amazing. In this book, our main character, her name is Olivia, and her father, back when he was a teenager, his 2 siblings were killed in what seemed like maybe a home invasion of some sort, and there were rumors that were circulating around their small town that maybe he was the one who did it. He was never officially charged with this, but he's also never been able to like escape those rumors, and that in turn affected her as well. But now, years and years later, she is a ghostwriter, and her father hires her to write a book of what really happened back in the 70s. So we are finally getting that story. She is finally getting that story, and the way it unravels and unfolds was so good. I gave this book 4.5 stars. I absolutely recommend it. Probably one of the best thriller mystery books I have read in a while, and I did go on kind of a stretch here of reading thriller mystery books, and I think of them all that I read, that one was my favorite. Now we are moving on into the August books. So another thriller mystery that I read was The Housemaid's Wedding. This one is kind of a short story, and it takes place in the Housemaid series. Not much happens in this. It's kind of just a tie-over little story to transfer you into the last book, the 3rd book, from the 2nd book and where that one leaves off. I ended up landing on a 3-star rating. It was good, but it just didn't feel like it was all that necessary. So then I went from that one into the last book, which is The Housemaid is Watching. I really liked the fact that this book took place years after the 2nd book, and because of that, we are seeing our main character Millie when she has children, when she is married, when she is dealing with troubles with work and troubles with her neighbors and stuff like that. But of course there's going to be suspense, and we're not going to know who to trust, and there's going to be a lot happening, but it was good. It was good. I gave this one 3.75 stars. I love the Housemaid series. I love Frida McFadden's thrillers. I think they are always just such quick reads for me. And I think if somebody came to me and they were like, hey, I want to start trying to read thrillers, or I want to get into thrillers, what would you recommend? I would absolutely say the Housemaid series is a great place to start. Okay, and then I read another thriller. This one was by Geneva Rose. This is another one of the thriller authors that I really enjoy reading her books. This one is called You Shouldn't Have Come Here. And I didn't know what to expect with this book. I went into it listening to it on audiobook and finished it in like a night. I sat down and did not want to stop reading this book. It was so good. I think I was coloring or crafting or something when I was listening to it. And the way my jaw dropped at the plot twist, it was so good. I have not been disappointed by her books yet. This one I gave a 4.25 star rating. Our main character, she goes on like a little vacation into this small town to stay at an Airbnb, and she is staying there, and it seems the only person that is there at the time is the host. And there's like a will they, won't they romance tension between them. But then you also just don't know who to trust, or if you can trust him, if you can trust the people of the town. It's eerie. Eerie is probably the best word I can think of for it. Again, 4.5 stars, would definitely recommend that book. So now that we are talking about our books in August, this is when I read Accomplice to the Villain. This is the newest book from Hannah Mehr. I was expecting this to be the last one. I thought this was going to be a trilogy. It's not. We are getting 4 books, not 3. So I was going into this thinking this is the conclusion of this story, the conclusion of what we are gonna get from these characters. No, it was not. It was so good. It was so good, but of course it leaves off on another cliffhanger, and I gave this one 4.25 stars, and I need the next book pronto. Then I recorded a video where I was trying to finish up my summer TBR, and for that video, the first book that I read was The Wedding People. I was kind of surprised by this book, but I had heard really good things about it. I just went into it kind of feeling like it was really heavy. There was so much talk of depression and miscarriages and other like just really sad topics, and because of that, I wasn't sure how we were gonna steer this and turn the ship around. But I ended up really, really liking this book, and I ended up giving it a 4.5 star rating. I think I had initially said 4 stars, but I really appreciate the way that this book was written and the way that it even kind of talks about relationships, friendships, depression, and all these other things, you know, wanting to change yourself, wanting to change who you are or how it is that you move throughout the world. I really loved the way that this book was done. And there is a little bit of a trigger warning there for depression and miscarriages, but if you are not triggered by that, this book, it speaks on grief and so much more. Then I read, I think what is my first Rebecca Yarros actual contemporary romance. I read Variation. This book was really, really good. I didn't realize it was going to be about a ballerina and ballet. I love reading books about that. We have a second chance romance happening that's also kind of fake dating, which I will eat up fake dating every single time. Something about the tension between those two people when they're not actually dating, and are they pretending or are they not? But also, our male character in this book, he was just absolutely obsessed with her in the best way, in the absolute best way. So I gave that one 4.25 stars as well. Then I went into another Abby Jimenez book. I read Yours Truly, which is part of the same series as Part of Your World. This book takes place with Brianna, and she is best friends with Alexis from the first book. Brianna and Jacob are both ER doctors, and they both kind of have their own issues that they are struggling with. He is a very, very anxious person, which I related to so much. Reading someone's thoughts, similarly to reading the thoughts in The Wedding People when it was discussing depression, reading the thoughts from Jacob about him being anxious about anything and everything, I related to that so hard. But Brianna, she has just gotten out of a marriage, and she is dealing with some trauma also from the relationships that she has had with the other men in her life, like her father. And again, we have fake dating. I love it. I absolutely love it. I think I initially was going to give this book 4.75 stars, somewhere around there. I rounded up to 5. It's good. It's amazing. I love Abby's books, and this book is probably one of my favorites. Then I read Eris Takes All. This is a YA story where our main character, her father has basically kicked her and her mother out of the house, has very little to do with her, and he has tons of money. And he is kind of insinuating or saying that he is not going to give her her inheritance. She's more or less been cut off. So when he is getting remarried, she decides to perform a heist She gets a group together, almost Ocean's 11 style, or Ocean's 8 or 9 or any of the Ocean's movies, and they're going to perform a heist during the wedding ceremony and the wedding events. It was a young adult book, which I like young adult books. I always like the way that romance is put in those. I feel like it's done really well where it's on the side, but you're still interested in it. But what we really want to know is what's going on with her father. Is she going to get the money? Is she going to get caught? And so for this book, I gave it a 3.75 star rating. Okay, and then the last book that I read in the month of August, I read The Rule Book. This is by Sarah Adams, and I started in the middle of the series with this one. This is the second book in the series. I did not read the first one, which was The Cheat Sheet, but I am now planning to go back and read that one because I really enjoyed The Rule Book. I wasn't sure what to think about it in the beginning because our main character is kind of being a jerk, but I don't know if I completely excuse his behavior, but when they start to talk and they actually start to be honest with each other and how it is that they have felt hurt, it is again a second chance romance. And this one is a football player and his manager, but they dated in college. So he is an NFL player now. She is his manager, and he's just giving her a rough time. He's kind of hazing her, and eventually the feelings are gonna happen. So it was really fun. I gave it 3.75 stars, and I'm definitely gonna be going back and reading the rest in the series. So those were all of the books that I read in the months of July and August. I can't believe that consistently this year I have been able to read so many books. I typically would have a really big slump at some point, and I'm not ruling it out completely for the year. I'm sure it will probably happen at some point, but so far, so good, and I have had some really amazing reads. But thank you guys so much for watching and coming back to my channel. If you are new here, thank you so much for staying and watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! Thank you.